Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision Presents On Shudder. I'm Sean.
And I'm Missy.
And Missy, what are we doing today?
We're talking about Devil's Pass, or the Dyatlov Pass incident, um, from 2013, directed by Renny Harlin, and it's on Shudder right
This is one you've been telling me. So I just watched this for the first time. You watched this like when roughly? About when it hit video originally?
now. Yeah, probably. Probably about 10 years ago. I just remember I was watching it. My cousin showed it to me. He shows me a lot of movies. Um, so he showed it to me. That's the last time I saw it. I saw it that one time, and then I just saw it again, but I've never forgotten about it. It was one that I added to my collection as soon as I watched it with him, and I would think about it fairly often and be like, I'm gonna watch this. And then I forget and get sidetracked. Um, so when we were talking about showcasing and talking about different things on Shudder to draw attention to the good movies, and I saw it was on there, I suggested we do this one because I had wanted to show it to you when I saw it. I probably told you about it then and then forgot about it.
Well, I know you have been suggesting this to me for quite some time. I remember this was one of the thumbnails. I feel like it's Netflix, but I could be wrong. But like 10 years ago, there was a couple. It was like this. I think there's another one called Breathing Room, and there are a couple others where I would see them every fucking day, and they just kind of became background, and I didn't take them seriously. And then I remember you mentioned this to me, and I was like, "Oh, really? It's okay. It's good. Okay, that's good to know." And then I just never got around to it. It disappeared off
Mm-hmm.
Netflix or whatever streamer that it was either Netflix or Prime. And I think we neither one of us mentioned it for a while, and it popped
Mm-hmm.
up. I saw it pop up on Shudder, and then you mentioned it to me very quickly, like, "Oh, that's on there. You should watch it."
Mm-hmm.
And it finally, because you suggested we do it for On Shudder, I was like, "Yeah, okay, it's about time."
Yeah, I it made an impression on me then, and I was a little worried that after 10 years it might not hold up, and I still think it did. The basic premise is you've got like five American students that are making a documentary about what happened at the Dyatlov Pass back in the 50s. They disappeared and then were found dead. Like everything was unexplainable. So now they're going back to try to figure out what happened. It is a found footage kind of movie. Usually I do not like these. I'm very particular. They tend to give me a headache. And the shaky cam with a lot of these movies usually drives me nuts. When I saw this, one of the things that made an impression on me was that it it uses found footage, news coverage, and like real time story. It blends them all very well without feeling choppy and disjointed, and leave you trying to watch this movie where you're just thinking, can somebody please hold the camera still? Um, I thought it was really well made. I thought it had like I tend to look for movies in the snow when we have those sub-zero days.
Hmm.
Um, and it had that vibe for it, and it's just always kind of stayed on my mind.
Yeah, I find it interesting, and I wonder if it was added to Shudder recently based on there's a lot of overlap with True Detective Night Country.
Yeah, I was thinking that when I was watching it, that some of it reminded me, like the paradoxical undressing.
Yes, so that was the first. So this is based on an actual event in 1959 where nine Soviet hikers
Wait, it
died
was
in
real?
the. Yeah, it was real. So nine Soviet hikers died in the northern Ural Mountains between February 1st and February 2nd, 1959, under uncertain circumstances. And so this is the kind of historical thing where there are all these ideas, and so it breeds like was there secret experiments that drove them nuts and blah blah blah. Infrared sound. Just, I mean, there's a Wikipedia article on it.
Okay.
I just read a little bit from it. I always feel guilty doing that, but I'm just not that familiar with this historically. So,
I didn't
um,
realize that the inciting event was real.
yeah, it's real. And so that adds a nice layer to it. And I feel like, I mean, found footage, I don't dislike as much as you. I don't like it, a lot of them. And especially in 2013, I feel like there's from like the earlier mid 2000s to around 2013, 2014. I feel like there was a lot of these kind of movies. Nothing against
Oh
anybody
yeah.
involved, but there's a lot of young actors that never really moved beyond this. Um, it just has a certain feel to it that to me, I'm like, oh yeah, that's from like I would, if I had not known and you showed me this, I've been like 2010, that would have been my guess. So I'm within
Okay.
3 years.
Yeah.
But it's good, and I would say it's one of the better of this kind. It is closer to. I love the original Blair Witch. I feel like it's similar in quality, and while that's based on a made-up historical event, this is based on an actual historical event, and I feel like that gives it a nice kind of leg up as far as it. It really, they have a lot to work with, and they do a good job with it.
Yeah, it gives me Blair Witch vibes too. Um, but I think this actually does it better because like you get a real payoff at the end that evolved into something different.
Yeah, that's true.
And Blair Witch, like I don't hate it. I I don't know that I like it either, but I'm probably neutral to kind of liking it. Um, I get in the mood for it occasionally, but it never. I mean, it kind of has a payoff, but not really.
It's an ambiguous
Like I'm
payoff, but it's
right.
not about the payoff, right? That movie's all about actually experiencing what they're experiencing, where this is about getting to the end. And they lay the seeds really early and it blossoms nicely. So when you get the final image, you're like,
Hmm.
ah, I mean, you don't even need the final image, which is I'm an emotion. I'm not going to say it on camera, but they show you something. And I'm like, I didn't need that, but that's cool. It didn't
Right.
feel it didn't feel over explained because it's just an image. They
Right.
didn't have somebody come on and be like, oh, and blah, by the way, blah, blah, blah.
If you were paying attention, you'll make the connection.
Exactly. And you make the connection. Or like
Hmm.
they mention early on, they do alter the historical facts. And that's, when they're interviewing somebody that was actually there when they found the bodies, supposedly, she's like, no, there were 11 bodies. And then the girl doing the documentary is like, well, the historical record is there's nine. She's like, well, there were 11.
Hmm.
So I really enjoyed the way they kind of changed the historical record for the purposes of the story because it did pay off. So I thought that was cool.
Hmm. Yeah, it all interconnected well. Um, I thought that like your three leads gave very good performances.
Yeah,
I mean, I
I
don't know
thought so
them from
too.
anywhere, but I mean, very solid performances. The cinematography was good. The scenescapes were really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, very pretty scenescapes, good camera work, and yeah, I was kind of amused by how much it did kind of feel like what we some of what we just saw in Night Country.
Yeah. It was cool. And I had to wonder if that's why it showed because if it's ever been on Shudder before, I never noticed it. I've been subscribed since 2018, I think.
Right.
So not that new stuff doesn't pop up there all the time. And that's what the purpose
Hmm.
of On Shudder, us doing this show is, people subscribe for Joe Bob and then they unsubscribe and they may never know, there's good stuff on here. This isn't going to be for
Right.
everybody. If you don't like found footage, I would actually say if you don't like found footage, because I know you generally don't, but you like this movie, I still think
Hmm.
people who don't like found footage should give this a shot because, like you said, it mixes very
It mixes.
seamlessly.
It's not a full found footage movie. It's
No.
more real time with some found footage and news anchor stuff mixed in.
And there's no shaky cam, I feel like.
There's no shaky. That's what I was going to say. Depending on what you don't like about found footage, for me, the biggest thing is simply that a lot of them employ that shaky cam technique, and it gives me massive headaches and triggers motion sickness. So with those found footage movies, if it doesn't have good camera work and it doesn't grab me within the first like 30 minutes, I'll nope out of it because it will make me nauseous.
Well, and the shaky cam thing, I'm not going to be able to come up with well, I can come up with a good example, although I like the movie. But, like Cloverfield, there's a lot of the shaky cam, right? And the thing
Mm.
is,
I
shaky
haven't
cam,
seen that since I only saw it in the theater. I
th
remember liking it at the time, but
I mean, it's a little bit of a different animal than your standard found footage. But the point is, shaky cam is a way that is very easy to, instead of special effects, you can induce, you can transmit the character's fear or some frightening
mhm.
event by shaky cam. And that worked like one or two times, and then now it just feels like, yeah, I don't know, like we've seen that. Don't stop doing it,
Right.
like because it is annoying, and I'll accept it once or twice, and then after that, it's like, okay, that's already been done. Can we do something different? Like, I don't know. This doesn't use any of that. I feel like it's
No, it
very
doesn't.
well made. And Renny Harlin, I want to talk about Renny Harlin for a minute because so really the first movie I knew him from was Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which when I would have first seen that would have been when it first hit video. So we're talking in the 80s and I was a kid and
Yeah.
I didn't even look at who the fucking director was. It didn't matter, right?
Right.
But that is after rewatching most of the Nightmare movies a couple years ago, that's the last, in my opinion, like four surprised me because I thought everything after three was shit. But no, four I actually liked and he directed it.
Hmm.
And everything
Yep.
after that I think is shit. He's done a lot of really like so he did that. He did Die Hard 2, which I'm not a fan of. I just recently watched it.
He did Deep Blue
Not
Sea.
he did I never saw that.
I like the Killer Shark movies, and I'll be the first to admit it. I like Deep Blue Sea. It's fun.
I I've always heard it's great. I just to me it's like I don't know why, but I'm just so hesitant to do any Killer Shark movie because I'm just like, yeah, Jaws. But I'm a little bit like the guy that's like, yeah, why would anybody record rock and roll after Steppenwolf in the 70s? That's pointless. I'm a little bit like that with Jaws, but I don't know. I've always heard Deep Blue Sea is good. He also directed a lot of LL Cool J videos, specifically one. So he's got a song called like Deepest. I had something that's obviously like it went, like he's in the movie, so they had him do a song, and so Renny Harlin directed the video. I just thought it was funny, but he did Ford Fairlane, which I don't know, amused me as a preteen. I don't know how I feel about it now. Cliffhanger, which I, I don't think I've ever seen all the way through. But the point being, he's done a lot of like big
Big budget
movies, and
movies. Yeah.
yeah, and he jumps around all over the place. So he knows what he's doing, and I think he really got his money's worth, uh, in this production.
Yeah. I think it's a cool movie that I never hear anybody talk about. It was one that always kind of stayed with me. I thought it was very well done, and it gave me all the things that found footage movies usually don't do. So I guess I was impressed with it because of that. And I thought the story was cool. You do get a payoff at the end. There's even a monster, very briefly, but there's even a monster.
Yeah. And also, I would like to point out, so the thumbnail is fine. When you click on the movie on Shudder, there's an image that opens up before you hit play, and it don't judge it by that image because I think that image, first of all, it's a still of something in the movie, and you never actually. It's unfortunate they use that image because it blows the picture up, and it's a still of an action shot that I don't think was ever made to be like shown as a still. So it just doesn't like when you click on it, I was like, oh God, what? But don't let that intimidate you. It doesn't the movie doesn't look like what you think it's going to look like based on that image.
No, it doesn't. Because when I saw that, at first I was like, wait, maybe I don't remember that. Is this the movie I thought it was? And it is. It is. But yeah, it's got a deceiving thumbnail that will remind you of things like The Descent, and it's not that.
Yeah, but even like it's almost like yeah, it's just it's an unfortunate image. I don't think they should have used it all. And when the movie finished, I was like, was that even in the fucking movie? And I guess it was, but there's some very fast editing that occurs near the end of the movie, and I feel like it's a still of one of
Yeah,
them. So
I
it
think
just
so
doesn't
too.
look right. So,
So yeah, ignore that. That still, it's just try it. It's it's worth trying. The still is deceiving. That's not what
yeah.
it
But the cinematography is great, and like it's shot in northern Russia, and in some of it's shot in the UK, but I think it's mostly northern Russia. So like you are actually seeing like Russian mountains and stuff, and it's very well shot and it's gorgeous, and they do a good job of, you know, these are five Americans that really shouldn't be where they are, and they're dwarfed by the environment, by nature, and they do a very good job conveying that. And then so then
is.
when things start going really awry for them, like it all of that kind of creates this pressure cooker, and like I felt it. I was
Hmm.
my pulse, increased.
Right. You feel the tension, and it captures that isolation very, very well.
Yeah,
Like they are literally out in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and
absolutely
they're
nowhere.
recreating the steps of nine people who disappeared and died.
Yeah. Yeah, which yeah, there's a great line in there. Where it's like, we're recreating the steps of nine people who died. What did you think was going to happen?
Right.
I really like that line because I was like, oh yeah. Although I feel like he should have thought about that before he signed on, but
Right. Because I mean, she told them that's what they were going to do.
yeah. But
And I'd have been like, nope, you're on your own.
they're really good performances. Like Holly Gross is, I guess, arguably like the main character, the girl that wants to make the documentary.
Hmm.
Michael Stokey is the now let me see if I can remember this right. Jensen is the cameraman, I think.
Yeah. Hmm. And JP is the guy.
Yeah. Luke Albright is JP, and then Ryan Howley is Andy Thatcher. It's good. All of them. It's like you said, very so and then I'm sorry, the sound girl, Gemma Atkinson. The, all good performances. It's well written. There's little relationships building and falling apart, and none of it's overly dramatic, and it's all really good. And there's actually like a moment where um, Jensen comes over and sits by Holly and Andy, and like there's Holly is communicating something to him with her eyes, and it just kind of like broke my heart for Jensen. I was like, oh man, god damn. So it was like, look, it was real subtle, but it was good. It was, I don't know, I feel like that was indicative of how I felt about the performances in the movie.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah, I thought, I mean, the performances are strong. A lot of times in like the found footage movies, it feels like the people can't really act, and I think these guys did a very good job. I tend to judge these types of movies very harshly, and I really like this one.
Looking at and I almost never do this because the reviews on Shudder, I can only see them on my phone. and I don't ever watch anything on my phone. It's funny. It's very mixed. I feel like a lot of people are five skulls, five skulls, five skulls, four skulls, and then you get a lot of people saying like the acting was awful. I couldn't get past the horrible, unlikable characters that act like 12-year-olds. I don't see, especially that. I didn't think like anybody acted like a 12-year-old.
No.
I just couldn't get past the poor acting in this one. I mean, to each their own.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like you said, found footage. There's a lot. It just it's a subgenre that tends to proliferate some questionable performances, and I just feel like this is not one of those.
Right. I agree with that.
Should also point out this is not a Shudder movie, so I don't know how long this will be on here. One of the things about Shudder is some movies that they hire on, they pay for the rights to stream, stay on there forever. Some come and go, some disappear and don't come back. So I would say grab it while you can. I think it's worth watching. I think you'll know fairly early. Like if you turn this on and within 15 minutes you're like, oh, fuck this, fuck them for saying watch this, turn it off. But I think people will dig it.
I think so too. And again, if you try it and it's not your jam, you can always nope out of it. But I think it's worth checking out.
Yeah, agreed. So that's Devil's Pass, directed by Renny Harlin. And this is on Shudder. And we will be back soon with another recommendation of good stuff playing on Shudder. But until we come back, I'm Sean.
And I'm Missy.
And stay out of the snow.
A pandemic of violence floods the streets of major cities as cases of the media-dubbed murder virus, MV20, soar, causing those infected to go on killing sprees. Caught in the middle, police detective Angela Miller finds her only trustworthy ally in the self-proclaimed psychic PI, Gerald Henry. As the two try to navigate the violence, they are drawn into New Age guru Abramelin Harvest's plot to heal the planet. Harvest's missive?
The world is sick, and humanity is the infection.
The cure? Murder. From the twisted mind of Sean C. Baker, author of A Collection of Desires and Shadowplay in Book 1, Kim and Jesse, comes his most vicious novel yet, Murder Virus.